NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to our final show of the week. Last show, best show. We say it every Thursday night, and I got a great one for you, or I should say we got a great one for you planned today. Today's word, the dead gift horse. It's actually 3 words. Today's 3 words, dead gift horse. You never look a gift horse in the mouth, and you never beat a dead horse. This Michigan story has felt like the biggest dead horse in college football news, probably since like the concussion syndrome thing being like a big deal. Big dead horse. Yet, every time I turn around, this dead horse be gifting us new stories. So this dead gift horse gave us another one today. Do y'all remember last week I came on this network and I gave you the cliff notes of a 10-page letter that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh's lawyer wrote to the Big Ten that basically, in a summarization of a 10-page document, said, quote, "You can't do this. You can't come out here and give us any type of suspension or else, without the NCAA ruling on it. You can't act outside the NCAA and impact us with punishment or else we going to sue you because your handbook says you can't do it." That's fine. The Big Ten said, cool. Appreciate you writing me that 10-page letter. They suspended Jim Harbaugh's ass for 3 games Friday afternoon at 3:49. The dude was on the plane to State College to play Penn State. Got suspended 3 games, and then the immediate reaction from Michigan was, you can't do this. We told you can't do this. We're going to sue you. We're going straight into court. We're going to file a complaint. We're going to do all this good stuff. We're going to court over this. That was until today. That was until today when the Big Ten and the Michigan, quote, agreed, the Big Ten and Michigan, quote, agreed to terms to move on. And in the wording of this, Harbaugh accepted the punishment as a way to, quote, move forward. All right, this was too much of a distraction for everybody involved. They just wanted to get it behind themselves. At least that was the Michigan statement from today. The Michigan statement from today and the Big Ten statement from today could not be any further from each other. They are so polar opposites, I felt it necessary to read to you again today because as we have found out through this venture into national correspondence, people don't be reading nowadays. So we're going to read for you. All right, Michigan statement. I'm going to read it to you first. Quote, "This morning, the university, Coach Harbaugh, and the Big Ten resolved their pending litigation. The conference agreed to close its investigation, and the university and Coach Harbaugh agreed to accept the 3-game suspension. Coach Harbaugh and the university's support decided to accept this sanction to return the focus to our poor student athletes and their performance on the field. Woe is me. The conference has confirmed that it is not aware of any information suggesting Coach Harbaugh's involvement in the allegations. The university continues to cooperate fully with the NCAA investigation." Hey, great news, Michigan fans. You and the Big Ten, you all agreed, hey, everything's copacetic. We're just going to take this 3-game suspension. That's going to be it. Hey, everything's good. Big Ten dropped their investigation. It's all good. All copacetic. Till that last line. We'll talk about that here in a second. But here's the deal. That's fugazi. That's fugazi, particularly that part about the Big Ten, Coach Harbaugh, and the university, quote, resolving their pending litigation. That's not at all what happened today. Matter of fact, it's the complete opposite of what happened today. It wasn't no resolving of this litigation. This was a quitting of a litigation. Check this out. This is the Big Ten's statement from today, released about the same time. All right. Quote, "The Big Ten's conference commitment to student athletes, sportsmanship, and the commissioner's duty to protect the integrity of competition will never waver. Today's decision by the University of Michigan to withdraw its legal challenge against the conference's November 10th notice of disciplinary action is indicative of the high standards and values that the conference and the university seek to uphold." Bottom line, Michigan, you pussed out. The moment you said you was going to take this to court, they showed you the evidence of what was fixing to happen in court, and you said, whew, I don't want none of that smoke. You immediately folded. The moment they took you and said, I dare you. Let's go take this into court. We're good, baby. We're fine with whatever happens in court. In fact, Michigan said, no, we're good. We're pulling it immediately. I thought that was really, really funny, boys, for Michigan and all their fans to be out here talking about how tough they were and how the Big Ten can't do this. And then immediately, here's the evidence of what we had. Ooh, we're good with that. How many games y'all say? Y'all said 3 games? Ooh, that sounds perfect. Because here's the other neat little interesting fact about this. And I was telling you about this pre-show. These are not criminal charges. Okay, so if this were to end up into a courtroom, all right, and they were trying to litigate this, and they were trying to get to the bottom of this, and they were putting people on the stand to testify, all right, one of those people would be Jim Harbaugh. And the first thing most people would say is, plead the fifth. Don't tell them shit. You ain't got to. Except this is not a criminal case. So the fifth, pleading the fifth is not available to anybody. So the moment you get put on the stand, the only way you are leaving with criminal charges is if you perjure yourself. If you lie, all right? And the pleading the fifth is not available. So guess what you're going to have to do, Jim Harbaugh? You're going to have to tell the truth. And guess what? Who ain't going to tell the truth on the stand with no ability to plead the fifth? Jim Harbaugh. So, yeah, they tapped out of this lawsuit today. 1, because they said, we're all good. 2, the real reason, they were probably going to get smoked in court. 3, the real reason, they didn't want Jim Harbaugh standing on a stand not being able to plead the fifth. And again, all of this was made available to you if you just read. But you don't have to read around here if you're a listener of this show. You can just show up and we'll read it to you. So, of course, guys, Michigan dropped the lawsuit today because ain't no way man's going to go sit in a courtroom and actually be held to his feet to the fire.
Yeah, it was great because all of last weekend it was all the bet tweets from the players on Twitter. And then it was Jim Harbaugh saying, we need to be America's team because we're going to defy the odds. And it's the whole world against Michigan. It's everybody versus Clemson or against Michigan and all this stuff. And then as soon as they get an out and they can avoid all of this, like, oh, yes, please, yeah, please, we'll accept that.
A great point here from the chat. Santa Ono, their president at Michigan, their athletic director, was one of the most outwardly spoken advocates for we're going to fight this to the death all the way to the last end. Michigan versus everybody, yada, yada, yada. They ain't got shit on us. Here's what we got. Oh, never mind. I'm going to go back into my little corner. And they admitted that they did this essentially by today's news, admitted that they were going to accept the punishment that was coming down. But, hey, Jim Harbaugh don't know nothing about this. Now, here's what people will think and people will overlook during this entire announcement today. Those last statements, all right? Michigan, and they were in both statements. Michigan is being, diligent or working with the NCAA to complete its investigation. And here's what I'm going to tell you. And if you're a Michigan fan, listen to this. You're not going to like this. You're probably going to call bullshit anyways. You're going to deny it like you have this entire investigation and allegation. But I'm here to tell you that the Big Ten was never going to suspend him for the college football playoff. They were never, as a conference, going to suspend one of their member schools from competing and impacting the ability for that school to bring in $25 million for their conference and potentially win a national title. That shit ain't happening. They will suspend him for the regular season like they did. But what they're not going to do is they're not going to say, hey, we're also suspending him for the college football playoff. You know who will? The NCAA, who is not done with their investigation. In fact, their reporting and their evidence was so damning that the Big Ten acted outside of their own Big Ten rule books to give him this 3-game suspension. So let me ask you, audience, what do you think the NCAA's got? What do you think they found? And do you think they're just going to leave it at 3 games? I would say probably not. And again, I think this is where the college football playoff suspension comes from because it damn sure is not going to come from the Big Ten.
I wonder, maybe it was a good thing that Michigan did it, or I shouldn't say good thing. Maybe it was smart for them to go ahead and do this now because I do think it provides a lot of outside noise and it puts a lot of attention on your program for all the wrong reasons. And that can be kind of distracting in a locker room with like, dang, we got all this stuff being said about us. We got this going on. Our head coach has this he's dealing with. The school itself is dealing with these allegations. Now that you've kind of put it to rest, especially for the next 2 weeks where you have this matchup with Maryland and then, of course, the big one next week against Ohio State, probably a good time to just say, all right, now it's done for now. We'll focus on it later.
Am I the only one who's really disappointed how this ended?
It's not over.
Yeah, it's not over.
The NCAA is going to slap them way harder than the Big Ten did, so I just said, but it's not over at all.
Okay.
The Big Ten put their hands up. The Big Ten, let me boil it down 90 seconds for you. The Big Ten's 13 other member schools were like, hey, this dude's cheating like a mother effer. You better go get him right now. Here's all of the evidence. All right? That's what's happening. All right? And then the Big Ten said, okay, we'll collect this evidence. We'll take a look at it. And then they called the NCAA and they said, hey, how much do you got on this? And the NCAA said, oh, we got way more than you do. So the Big Ten said, okay, we got to suspend him. And we got to do something we've never done, which is wait on the NCAA to finish their investigation because what you got is so daggone bad. And that's where we are today. The Big Ten acted outside of their normal handbook because of what had happened, and the evidence that was presented to them was so damning that they went outside of their handbook. All right. Then when presented with all that outside of the handbook type of evidence, we got to act. Michigan said, oh, yeah, you kind of right, and folded their hands and dropped their lawsuit. And that's where we are here today. So I cannot imagine what kind of dirt the NCAA actually has on these guys and what they're willing to actually impact. What were you guys over here giggling about?
I was giggling about what you were saying.
Oh,
I was giggling at Busta and Augusta.
Busta and Augusta be making everybody laugh up in that chat.
But no, so do you think there's any possibility he gets suspended by the NCAA for the playoff?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's coming down. I think the NCAA is not going to allow this dude to walk out into the NFL without facing some type of punishment at their hands. It's why they're rushing this decision. If you read, it's in there. It says, at the conclusion of the fall. That was in the 10-page letter from the Michigan administration and legal team that the NCAA investigation they had been let known would be done this fall, which never happens, by the way. He's still under investigation for the shit he did during COVID. All right, so it never happens for the NCAA to rush a decision like this and come down to a decision so quickly like they are doing. And again, that's not you being picked on, Michigan fans. That's precedents being broken or being set because what you have done in their eyes is that bad. It is that bad. And I have seen so many takes. Robert Griffin again today went on Rich Eisen's show, the famous Michigan alum and the famous Michigan homer who looked like he had found out that Santa Claus wasn't real or that his dad had been cheating on his mom for all these years or something. His heart was broken to find out that Jim Harbaugh was a cheater. All right, all these Michigan alums, all these people talking about, well, it didn't impact the outcome that much. Again, explain play action to me. I dare you. Explain it to me. And these people walk themselves into this argument every single time. I don't even have to preface the Michigan stuff. Robert Griffin, ask him, hey, why's play action work? And he'll go through this long gallivanting answer because he won't know. He won't know what you're doing. He won't know that you're walking him into a trap. He'll sit there and he'll go on this long gallivanting answer about how the defense doesn't know, run, pass. And there's this moment of confusion that happens. Well, that moment of confusion is immediately taken away whether or not you know if it's run or if it's pass, which was the whole point of stealing signs. It did impact the game. It did impact the outcomes of football games. It's why the Big Ten did what they did. It's why they're standing on business to shout out Eli Drinkowitz.
So what if they don't make the playoff? What does the NCAA do then?
They just, I think they just wait. You know, I think that's why they're waiting. They're probably honestly waiting until the end of the Ohio State game. Because it's not necessarily, I think the NCAA is working on their own timeline, but the Big Ten does have maybe a say or a care about when this comes down. Gotcha. You know what I mean? But there's also the side of this that if Michigan goes on to win a national title this year, they will say that, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And the whole cheating scandal was nothing. It didn't matter. It didn't actually impact football games. We beat your ass anyways. You know, it'll happen like that. I'll still call them cheaters. So it is what it is. I think public image at this point has damned them far worse than any type of, punishment that's ultimately going to be dealt out.
This is going to follow them for years. Even after Harbaugh leaves, Michigan's going to be known as the cheaters.
Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. We thought it'd be fun to talk through a hypothetical 12-team college football playoff, so we'll talk about that tonight.
A little bit of breaking news for you.
What's up?
It's not major, but Lane Kiffin confirms Jackson Dart will be returning next season.
Huh. Thought so. Super senior, not a super elite, top-end, first-round draft pick type talent.
Jalen Daniels also announced he's coming back.
Kansas.
Yeah, that 2025 class is starting to look stacked too.
Those aren't NFL football. I don't think Jackson – I think Jackson Dart is a really good college football player. I don't think he's going to be drafted like an NFL football player. He'll be drafted as an NFL backup. He will not be drafted as an NFL starter. Same thing for Jalen Daniels. Those guys are coming back because they enjoy playing college football, in my opinion. They should. That should happen way more often. And I think it will continue to for about 4 more years. until not 4 more years, 2 more years until COVID seniors are up.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
on a roster in 2020. So there's that. But yeah, welcome to tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and reviewing. Captain Easy Stance. Captain Easy Stance came out today, and I'm going to flame that ass. Who can afford a loss this weekend? We're going to talk about that. Oregon State has a chance to be the villain of all villains, and our boy Kirby going to bring you a Heisman update. But I want to eat some more on this Captain Easy Stance. I know you guys been sitting over there itching to get a take in, but I got some more to cook right here. So sit back. If you were on Twitter today, all right, first of all, who is Captain Easy Stance? This is a straight rip from Dan Lebatard, one of my favorite shows of all time. Captain Easy Stance is the guy who says teachers should get paid more. No shit, we all agree. Hey, we should save the whales. It's a damn shame that all these whales are out here dying. Yeah, no duh. All right, that's Captain Easy Stance. And you know what the easiest stance in college football to make is? That the NCAA sucks. It's so easy to go out on social media and bag on the NCAA. They are the easiest target in the world. They are the easiest stance in the history of the world to go against because everybody hates them. Everybody thinks they suck. All right? So when today's news of James Madison, Jacksonville State, and I believe Tottenham or whoever the Tarleton State. Tottenham. Tarleton, might as well be Tottenham, man. Tarleton State gets denied their Division I transfer or transition rule eligibility. Everybody and their mama's on Twitter freaking out. F the NCAA. NCAA stupid. NCAA this. It was a layup. Stupid rule. Yada, yada, yada. Everybody's losing their mind about how much the NCAA sucks. And again, very easy stance to make. No one will ever disagree with you that the NCAA sucks. I'm in agreement. I every time I get a chance to shit on them, I do. I think it's an outdated system, all that good stuff. But it's the system that we have. It is. It is the only system that we have at this point. Okay, so everybody was up in arms today. F you, NCAA. All this good stuff. Except, again, they just didn't read. They just did not read. For the 9th time in the last 2 weeks, we've come to you with a story that everybody was in outrage about, but they just didn't read. And if you just read today, it took you 4 sentences. If you just read 4 sentences today, you would understand that your vitriol on this topic of whether or not James Madison and Jacksonville State should be available for bowl eligibility this year, you would have ceased fire immediately with 2 daggum sentences. Quote, this is directly from Pete Thamel's article that was released today at 8:30 in the morning. The NCAA has rejected postseason waivers requests for James Madison, Jacksonville State, and Tarleton State football programs. It was announced Wednesday. 99.9% of people who gave you an opinion stopped reading today at that point right there. And then this next sentence right here would have alleviated all anger that you had towards the NCAA. Quote, this is the next sentence. The NCAA Division I Board Administration Committee made the final decision today, which echoed the conclusion of the 3 other committees that met on it. So the NCAA, who, by the way, is just enforcing a rule that James Madison agreed to and signed upon 12 months ago, all right? They're just enforcing a rule, by the way, that the other 3 committees chose to enforce prior to them having to make the final decision. So I don't know if you guys know how checks and balances work, but if 3 yeses come to my desk and then I'm the 4th and I got to say no, well, I got to go defy all the other 3 reasons why. And now we are throwing out all checks and balances. All right, so I get it. It was really, really easy to get mad at the NCAA today because they just enforced a stupid rule. Well, let's talk about the stupid rule. Let's do that. This 4-year transition rule, it's dumb as shit. NCAA, outdated. Why are you doing this? These poor seniors. Why are you doing this? Well, the transition rule exists, and it was 4 years where you were unable to have bowl eligibility. Do you know why? Because you have to prove that you can sustain the financial model when you increase, from D1AA to D1. All right, it takes a while for them to prove proof of concept. You can handle this upscale in infrastructure. All right, and it was a 4-year rule until people were bitching, moaning, complaining. That's stupid. NCAA, outdated. That's stupid. So you know what the NCAA said? NCAA said, fine. No more 4 years. You only got to wait 2. We'll cut it in half. For you, James Madison, just sign on these dotted lines right here. Just sign. So they signed. And now they're suing, or the whatever. The James Madison people are up in arms because they got an undefeated football team and they want to play in a bowl game. And Twitter's all pissed off because these poor seniors don't get to play in a bowl game. But guess what? There's more. If you just would have read, you'd have found out they're going to play in a bowl game anyways. There's not enough eligible bowl teams this year in college football. So there's a little asterisk down at the bottom of all of these articles that says, hey, don't worry, James Madison, Jack State, probably going to get to play in a bowl game anyways. You're just not reading, folks. You're just not reading, and you probably should, because there's no reason to be up in arms over this one. You put it on the show sheets, W or L. It's a push. It's an L. It's a lost circumstance. It sucks for James Madison seniors. But rules are rules, man. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that rules have to get enforced. But just because James Madison's elite doesn't mean we can retroactively go back and give Georgia Southern a bowl game in 2015 when they had to sit out for the same rules. These transition rules exist for a purpose. They were enacted today for a purpose, yet everybody and their mama wants to bitch, moan, and complain about the NCAA just doing their job. This isn't them not approving a transfer waiver. This is them just being consistent with the other three committees that they met with prior to them making the fourth and final decision. I get frustrated on this because it's just so easy to quote tweet and go, F you, NCAA, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot for not just reading. Just please read. That's all I ask. And I'm not a big reader. I'm not. But when it comes to formulating opinions and giving opinions, stop and take a minute. Read.
The harsh decision can also be the right decision. I mean, both of those things can be true, and that's the case here of we would all love to see a 10-0 James Madison team go into a bowl game and root for them and have something to look forward to in the middle of our month of December while we're waiting for the college football playoff spots to happen. But, I mean, rules are rules, and if this is what the rule that we held a bunch of other teams true to, then we have to do the same to them. We can't just give special treatment to someone for a one-time pass because they're 10-0.
No, I mean, y'all pretty much said everything that needs to be said on that. You can't get mad at an institution for enforcing rules just because you didn't know what the rules are or you think the rules are stupid.
Yeah, that's my favorite argument. Stupid rule. It's like just like when the Michigan scandal first came out, everybody's like, well, we should have mics in the headsets anyways. That's not the point. It's not the point at all. And in fact, Steve Sarkisian came out with this opinion today. Just put mics in the headsets. Put mics in the headsets. Put mics in the headsets. Well, yeah, he runs a pro-style offense.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care. You know who does? Ryan Day. You know who does? Kansas. You know who does? All these teams that Tennessee. All these teams that run fast-paced offenses because they're going to be signaling in no matter if there's mics in the headsets or not. So, it helps Alabama. Makes it easier for Tennessee or for Texas. Makes it easier for Georgia. So, yeah, it's nice and easy to make the stance of just put microphones in the headphones or in the headsets. Well, nobody runs air raid, fast, up-tempo offense in the NFL. They just don't. They do a lot of that in college football. So we just going to change all of college football because Michigan's a bunch of cheaters? No. We should probably keep college football the way it is and make them, obey by the rules maybe? I don't know. It's a crazy thought.
It is a wild thought.
Well, I'm worked up today, aren't I?
Yeah, you're hot.
I'm sorry.
I like it.
Welcome in. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate and review. And we do this every Monday through Thursday live at 9 p.m. Do you guys want to talk about a mythical, what is it called? Not mythical, a hypothetical 12-team playoff?
Yeah,
I want to do so too. Let's do this. This would be a nice break from Angry Brooks where he just rants and raves about something.
I don't know. We might
pissing
get
him
there.
off today.
We still might get there.
Like this stupid highest-ranked non-Power 5 team right here.
This is so disgusting to
This
look
is
at.
gross. Tulane has not looked anything like non-Power 5 teams that deserve a right to be in the college football playoff that we've been arguing for over the last several years. They are not Cincinnati. They are not. Who are some of these teams that have had?
There's literally
UCF.
only been
They're not
Cincinnati.
UCF.
UCF was undefeated in 2017. That's the only two
I feel
occasions.
like there was a team. It was Cincinnati 2 years in a row that had a
Yes.
legitimate
Yeah.
argument.
They
for
did
this.
it one year, and then
Yep.
the next year, okay, you've done it twice.
Finally,
We'll give it
let
to you.
in, and they got boat raced.
Yes.
All right. So this down here, we're automatically just opposed to. We don't like it.
Disgusting.
All right, we don't like it at all. And the other disagreement that we had here, we don't think Michigan loses to Ohio State. We think Michigan beats Ohio State, right? So we're going to put Michigan up here. All right, we're going to put OSU down here. Now,
Going to get Louisville out of there too.
well, we're going to take care of Louisville here in a second.
Get this
when
whole
Texas
damn
dubs up that ass.
bracket fixed, bro.
All right, so here's how we're going to do this. We're going to go matchup by matchup. All right, and what you need to know about the first year of the college football playoff is the first round gets a home game. The winners of the bye do not.
Yeah.
Okay, so these games right here, this game right here, this game right here, if you win your conference, if you are a top 4 seed, you will not get a home game But if you're the 5th seed or the 7th seed, you will get a home game the first year of the college football playoff. A lot of people will be pissed off about that. It won't last forever. I believe this is because the college football playoff change happens at a different time than the New Year's Six Bowls contracts expire. So you got to wait another year for the New Year's Six Bowls contracts to expire. Now, let's go through these matchups and start talking about who we think we're going to win. Let's start over here. We think OSU dominates Tulane, right?
Ohio State.
All right, so we're going to put OSU right here, Ohio State. Let's go up to the top. Alabama, Missouri, really good football game.
This would
right
be
here.
really fun.
Honestly, I think the best of the matchups here on the board
Absolutely.
to start this first round. What do we think?
I think that it'd be a really fun matchup just because Missouri's offense, Luther Burden, I think that'd be really fun to watch, especially with Alabama's secondary with Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terry and Arnold. That'd be fun to watch happen throughout the game. I just think that much like what happened with Georgia and Missouri, I think Alabama's defense would prevail in that football game.
I agree, too. I think Missouri just doesn't have the horses yet. They've got a great team, but I don't think they're talent-wise there.
I think like a 28-21 football game, very similar to the way they played it against Georgia maybe.
Yeah, close, and then Alabama maybe pushes it away.
All right, so we're going to take Bama here, and that's going to set up Bama and Georgia in the quarterfinals right there. All right, let's go over to the eastern side of this bracket. It's actually the western side of this bracket is the way it's looking, but it's on the east side of the board. Texas and Louisville, the 7 versus 10 matchup here. Who wins and why? It's an ugly one.
Texas.
It's not a very high-key matchup. I think of all of these, it's probably the least watched. Maybe Michigan, Ohio State, Tulane.
So, wait, is this based on –
It's based on current rankings.
Oh. Okay, so I was saying there's no way Louisville's in the playoff this year.
Well, now they would be. But you're going to assume they get a second loss from Florida State right here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
would
this
balance
is
that
it
was
just
out
not
from
anyways.
straight from the rankings right now.
Yeah,
That's why it's
straight
set
from
up
the
this
rankings
way.
right now. It's not
Okay.
actually 100% accurate.
So-
but you make a good point.
For sure.
Louisville probably wouldn't even be here. It would probably be Penn State. Okay?
Yeah, you gotta put Penn State in there.
in this scenario,
And Oregon State wouldn't be
Louisville
either.
would have lost to Florida State in the ACC championship game, and they would drop outside of the top 11, right? Because remember, the truest 12th ranked team is going to get screwed in this playoff matchup because, hey, fairness. We got to give these non-power fives an opportunity because Cinderellas are cool.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Disgusting. I mean, I don't even want to get into it. Y'all make fun of participation trophies. Well, come on, man. All right, let's get down. We think Texas wins this football game.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right,
go ahead and
let's
just put Texas
in
through.
here.
You're
Oregon State.
You're
good
running
football
into
game.
the same problem as you do with Louisville because
Yeah,
these two
this
teams are going
won't
to
be
play
here.
2 weeks.
Yeah, this won't be here. Who's ranked 13th right now?
I
Ole Miss?
believe it's Ole Miss, yeah.
All right, so let's put Ole Miss down here.
Ooh, that'd be okay. That might be the best matchup now.
This
That's
is a
a
really
fun
good
matchup.
football game. Now, Oregon and Ole Miss. It would be played at Autzen Stadium. We know what that means. Them Duckies, right? That Rebel offense does not travel, let alone all the way to the West Coast.
Heck no.
All right, so we're going to put Oregon in here. Now, this gives us a relatively good little quarterfinal right here between some really good football teams. There's really good matchups. A replay of the SEC championship game here, boys. We're just going to go ahead and pick Georgia. Neutral
Yeah.
field.
Yeah. I don't know. I was gonna say like,
This
do we
is
want to stow it away because we're gonna have to do this in 2 weeks.
This
All right.
implies that Bama loses to Georgia twice within 3 weeks, so I would go Bama.
All right, my man went Bama here, winning that matchup. Bama moves on.
It's so hard to beat a team twice in a season.
Michigan, Texas. That's my brand matchups. My God.
That's
That's a big
that's
one.
most watch of that round right
Hell
there.
yeah.
That's
See,
tough.
this is where the 12-team playoff I'm really in favor of. This Elite Eight matchup.
You'll get to see
we're
matchups that you
really gonna
really
get some
never get
good
to.
football games. There's not going to be any of these dragged out, ass beatings.
Absolutely.
We say that.
That's really
we say
tough.
That. That's a good point.
we say that, and then it was, oh, wait a minute. Clemson's beating Ohio State 31-0 at halftime. Bama's suffocating Clemson.
The man makes a good point. Michigan, Texas. Michigan's going to be favored.
I'd
Yeah.
go Michigan.
All right.
I
Do
lean-
they
I
have
lean
Jim
more
Harbaugh?
Michigan.
Do they have Jim Harbaugh?
No.
I'd
I'll go
still
Texas.
lean Michigan.
All right, so we got Bama and Michigan in one side of the quarterfinal, one side of the semifinal. Washington and Ohio State. I like Ohio State.
Hey, that's another really interesting one. I think Ohio State's defense is good enough to keep the Washington offense at bay, but I don't
was
know.
about to say, if Washington scores 31 points in this football game, they might win it.
Shoot, if they scored 24, they might win it.
That's
I would
true.
go
Common Core's
Washington,
look tough.
honestly.
All right, we like Washington. All right, we're to take Washington in that football game. Florida State, Oregon. Who we got?
Oregon.
I think they're
More
the more
complete
balanced
football team.
Absolutely.
I think it looks a lot like the 2014 Rose Bowl.
Oh,
It's a good call.
good shouts.
Jameis Winston, one of the dumbest plays in the history of football in that game.
He's had a
It was
couple of
like-
those
like
dumbest
slips
plays.
and fumbles. Classic. All right, we took Oregon there. So now we have a college football semifinal with Bama playing against Michigan and Washington playing against Oregon. So we got a Big 12 rematch right there for the
Pac-12.
third time. Pac-12, excuse me, for the third time this year.
Third time.
For the third time this year. All right,
Man,
so
I love
our
this
finals
12-team playoff.
are Oregon, Washington. Yeah, we got a couple of replays here. We got
Thank God we
Michigan,
get new
and we got
matchups.
Bama. All right, so there's our 4. Bama and Michigan, boys. That's a good matchup.
That is a good matchup. I think Bama's offense is better than Michigan's offense.
I would go Bama.
All right, so we all went Bama there. Oregon and Washington. We like Oregon.
Yes.
Very much.
All right. Oregon and Bama playing for a national title.
That'd be really fun to watch.
Very similar football teams
Yeah.
as well.
Jeez.
I like Oregon.
I like Oregon. in
You
that.
really like
I
Oregon?
like Oregon.
Mm,
I like Dan Lanning figuring out a way to make Jalen Milroe look a little confused.
that's a good point.
I also like Bo Nix as more than Jalen Milroe.
Chill out on that one. I'm just kidding. I do like it more than Milroe.
I was gonna say
But you know, it's an anti-Bo Nix crowd around here from yours truly.
not
But
crowd, just you.
Just solo artist. You know,
I don't know, man. That's first time national championship stage for Dan Lanning as a head coach.
Yeah, but I mean,
First time in a while for Oregon. That's tough for me to just say, like, I like Oregon.
Kirby Smart bat did it in 2017.
I mean,
But
it'll be Bo
if-
Nix's 79th college.
Let me
start.
put it this way. If Bama goes and beats Missouri, Georgia, and then they go and beat Michigan, I think they would go on to win that national title.
That's a hell of a point. But that is a really, really rough route. For
It
them.
is. But, I mean, if they're good enough to go through that stretch and get to the national title,
So in
I
this
think they would
scenario,
win.
we think whoever wins this football game wins.
Yes.
Georgia, Bama. That checks
I-
out for this show.
I still lean Oregon.
Still in Oregon.
I would still lean
You
Oregon.
like Oregon a lot, don't you?
Well, I think they also had to play a less tougher schedule. I mean, to go through Missouri, Georgia, and then what we say, Texas, Michigan.
And Michigan.
That's a grinder of a 3-game stretch, and then you have to beat Oregon. All that.
That's exactly my point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to
But
go
they'd be banged up by
to
then, I
go
think is what
to go
Kirby's saying.
4-0 in that stretch is
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is they'd be relatively banged up by the end of that. That's the other thing we have to take
Injuries
into
are the
account.
most hypothetical thing in this scenario.
I mean, they're not. In my opinion, I don't think it's a hypothetical to say after playing Missouri, Georgia, and Michigan that you're gonna come out clean.
Yeah.
Anybody in that scenario, you're going to go any team that makes the playoff and you're going to make it deep, you're going to have injuries. I don't care who you play. You're going to have to go through that many games to get to a national title. There's going to be substantial injuries.
Yeah, the model right there is really, really hard to actually go through because we don't have the full end of season results. We don't know who won what
we'll
conference.
have to
championship,
revisit this
whatever.
after
We'll
It's
redo
redo
just
it anyway.
based on the
But it's
rankings
still
for this
fun.
scenario. Yeah, it's still fun to go through and do that.
and fun to find out that hey, we might actually, and I was shocker, we might actually get some really, really good matchups that we would otherwise never get unless
Yeah.
they get picked for the Final Four.
If we're getting Michigan and Texas and stuff like that, I'm all here for it. I think I'll definitely find enjoyment for it. That Alabama-Missouri game opening up at Alabama, that would be really intriguing. So,
I hate it.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it still.
I hate
but
it.
if we're going to find a bright side and anything like that, then there it is.
Where do we want to go next, boys? Do we want to ask the audience to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button? I think we should start there. But we could talk about Iowa's best player getting injured. We can talk about which undefeated team could afford a loss, if there are any. We can go to the Pac-12 spoiler of the year, or we can go to the Heisman odds update. What do you want to talk about first?
We can knock out Cooper DeJean real quick.
Let's do this. Cooper DeJean, starting safety for Iowa, went down. Was this today or yesterday?
I believe it was announced today.
I believe it announced today, yeah.
What was it?
Lower body injury. They didn't disclose what, didn't say.
Out for the year with a lower body injury
And one of the top prospects this year, I believe.
in the NFL.
I think he's draft eligible.
I believe.
Let me look
so.
it up
I'm not
real
100% sure on that.
Oh, you got it? All right.
Go ahead and tell me a little bit more about Cooper DeJean.
He also
out here
he also
watching Iowa
returned
football.
punts, right? He was the guy who on that
okay.
call where they got called
Oh,
back because they said the other guy called a fair catch, but he didn't, or he did, or whatever. He was that guy. He's the guy who returned the punt. So it really sucks that Iowa also lost their best offensive weapon too.
Dude, they still got their punter.
That's true.
Facts.
They still have their punters. I'm looking at some stuff on Twitter right now. This is an Iowa kid. This is a Sioux City, Iowa kid that committed and he played quarterback in high school and committed to Iowa as an in-state superstar.
Wow.
So I don't know if he was Mr. Iowa, but it sounds like he'd been a dude for a long, long time in that state of Iowa. I'm watching this the state championship game. I don't know what kind of Fargo Dome type of thing they're playing that thing in, but it looks kind of lit. But anyways, sounds like a good football player. I don't know much about Cooper DeJean other than that he indeed did call fair catch on that football play, and I don't want to hear nothing else about it. You seem to have a face on this.
No, I was just
Again, just read. Just read. The people that were up in arms about that one, just read. Okay? Anytime you run over to a punt and you're doing this and you're screaming poison, automatic dead play. Automatic, you've called fair catch. You don't have to do this, guys.
Well, the thing was, I think wasn't it the other guy that was doing it? Because they had two returners.
No, the clip of him before he gets the ball, he's got his left arm and he's doing this and he's screaming poison. That's why the white hat at the back of the play blew the whistle.
Also, he is a junior according to ESPN, so he is draft eligible.
He has done some maturation, it looks like, based off this interview I'm watching, because he looks like he's 14 the day he committed to Iowa.
Also note that him and Malachi Starks are the only two players in the nation to be up for the Jim Thorpe Award and the Bronco Nagurski Award this season.
Well,
so
now it's just Malachi Starks.
Now it's just Malachi Starks. So Malachi Starks seems like a fit / shoe-in for maybe one of those awards.
Georgia's had a tough time winning one of those lately, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think it's because
J.R. Reed was up for it. They
and
haven't
this-
won it since DeAndre Baker.
And this is what always happens with those awards is it gets down to the end of the season, nobody's playing, and everybody's like, let me get on Stat Reference and compare Malachi Starks and this player. That's exactly what they did with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer last year. They were like, let me pull up Stat Reference. And it's like, well, let's look at everything else that Brock Bowers does on the field that doesn't go into the Stat Reference book. And I think that's the same thing that applies for Malachi Starks this year is he part of what makes him up for this award and why he should win this award is because nobody's going his way. Like, people are completely eliminating him from the football game because he's that good.
Very similar thing to what happens every single year, it seems like, with the Joe Moore Award. People are like, oh, look at Michigan. They run the ball really well. It's like, yeah, but it's a lot to do with scheme, not necessarily to do with unit, and this is a unit award. So if Georgia doesn't win the Joe Moore Award this year, I might burn something. Just for the hell of it, because I've been watching them for 3 years, and they've just been elite for 3 straight years with first rounders. What are you looking at over there? You keep looking at that playoff.
I'm just thinking, this 12-team playoffs really bother me because
I can tell.
What's the possibility that we start seeing teams opt out of conference championships because of it?
I don't think that's the case. I think
Because
they're gonna value eventually the top 4 teams will get a home game. So there is a reason to avoid a round of playoff, get a bye week, and get the home game.
Yeah,
in an Elite Eight.
Whole nother week of resting your players.
But the first year, I'm with you.
Yeah,
it
but
almost makes sense to get a home game as a 5 seed. You'd rather be 5 than 4.
Yeah, I mean, because looking at it, Missouri's in the most advantageous spot there because Georgia and Alabama play in the SEC championship. Missouri gets a rest.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to go through Missouri, Georgia, and then your 2 semifinal games just after you play the conference championship. So it's like a 5-game stretch where you have to virtually be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's better than the old model. The old model was 15 games you had to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, Georgia's going to have to win out this year to win a national title. They're going to have to go 15-0 to win a national title. Where under this model, they could be 9-3 and make the college football playoff.
Man, I hate that.
I dislike it as well for the sanctity of weeks 0 through 12, but I love the hell out of looking at that. When we went through that, I enjoy the shit out of the idea that Texas and Michigan might be able to play in an Elite Eight football game. That's dope to me. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be a good football game, like you said, but it's always going to be a marquee matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Because we're always going to have powerhouses in this. I don't think we're going to have a bunch of, randoms making this. I think we're going to have consistently great programs that win 9 and 10 football games. No Texas A&M's in this. I'm just kidding. I just set that whole thing up just to give it.
Wait, we've had TCU's and Cincinnati's in the Final Four.
Yeah, but no A&M's.
That's
all
not
that money.
That's not my point, though.
It's mine.
My point is you don't always get the powerhouse team like you're saying.
No, but more times than not, you will. I mean, if you look through the history of the rankings, okay, just AP or playoff rankings, whatever. Look through the top 12s. You're not going to see a lot. I mean, you're going to occasionally see a Tulane. You're going to occasionally see a non-power 5. You're occasionally going to see something sneak in there. But most of the time, those are big boys.
I think what was I going to go with this? I just had a thought that Another thing you have to remember, too, is when we are putting the top 12 together, or the committee is, it's a committee doing it. It's not just like where if there's 2 group of 5 teams ranked in the top 25, we're not just going to get 2 of them put into the top 12. They're going to analyze this and put the best 12 teams, just like we always look for the 4 best teams and we match them up together and we say, like, well, who do we think is
but 6 spots are auto bid. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to have a Power 5 next year. You can't convince me that the Pac-12 is going to be
No, they're going to have to rewrite that rule. That's been kind of outspoken. That's known. They're going to have to rewrite that rule. That's the other thing about, like, all this conference realignment going on during the time that college football playoff expansion is going on. It's like, I made jokes about it. They're not jokes. This is concerning to me. When the Big Ten decided to do what they did with USC and Washington and Oregon and UCLA, dude, I was on VSiN. The shouts out to the folks out there in Las Vegas. I was on their show, and I had to get pulled up a whole entire block because Jake Butt, remember the tight end from Michigan? He's on the Big Ten television network. So the day that news broke, he had to get called in like emergency style into the Big Ten network. So here's what I thought. My immediate thought told me was, you're telling me a Big Ten network employee was caught off guard by the fact that the Big Ten was about to purchase 4 of the biggest schools in the country and bring them in and conference expand. So essentially, the conference employees had no idea that the conference was going out and purchasing more members. That, to me, is really, really terrifying. It's really, really terrifying to me that we had this time period of college football where all of these decision makers were just flying by the seat of their pants, and we're about to find the repercussions of these things in the next 18 months. It took us 24 months to find the repercussions of NIL and the transfer portal and what it ultimately did. And what the ultimate finality of that is a big middle finger to every mid-major type football player that plays high school football right now, because they ain't going to play college football unless they're going to play in JUCO, unless they're going to play D2 football. Because every single mid-major like, UTEP, has taken 24 transfers the last 3 years and 2 high school students, when in years past, that was 27 high school students. It takes a while for these things to be impactful, but we're going to find out. We're going to find out how impactful all those fly-by-the-seat-of-the-pants decisions the Big Ten made and the Pac-12 made this past 18 months. Where do we want to go next? Do we want to talk about this undefeated team that can afford a loss? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think anybody can.
Well, I mean, there's a most for everything.
Okay.
Which team can afford it most? Obviously, you're on the outside. It's really going to be really tough for you if you do lose. But who can afford it the most?
Go ahead.
I think it's Georgia. I think it's Georgia because they've already clinched the East. They're guaranteed a conference championship spot, unlike Ohio State or Michigan. They should they lose in the conference championship, it would be a top 10 team they lose to, unlike Florida State. And then the committee already thinks they're number 1 team in the country. They're pretty much a playoff team right now. They would have to lose to be eliminated, unlike Washington or Oregon. Or Oregon's not undefeated. So.
I mean, heck, Georgia could go this weekend and lose and then beat Alabama in the SEC championship game and get in.
That's what he just laid out to an extent. I think the only team that right now can't afford a loss, like at all, period, that's undefeated, is Florida State. We all agree there, right?
Yep, Washington.
You think Washington?
For sure.
In the Big 12, the Pac-12
they're
championship
number 5 right now. The committee doesn't value their conference.
Right. Yeah, being
good
fifth.
Point.
Be a 5th. And how down the ACC is this year, for them to still remain 5th tells us you're right. So they can't afford to lose either. I don't necessarily love the take about Georgia, but I can see where you're getting at and how you get there. I just assume if they lose, they're out. You lose this late with this many options available.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an uphill battle to get back in there. But I think the fact that they're number 1, you'd have to drop them 5 spots to get them out of the playoff.
Yeah. I laid it out yesterday on my notes. I said that there's a scenario where both Bama and Georgia get in.
There is.
Let me find it and pull it up real quick.
But there's a scenario if Oregon State does one of the funniest things.
Now, let me preface this by saying it would also require the committee recognizing Georgia's strength of schedule and everything that they had to go through and over the last 3 weeks very heavily into this conversation, of course.
Why you find that? You know what I didn't understand when I saw some of the graphics come out on Twitter yesterday about the CFP rankings? Georgia has keynote wins against like number 9 Missouri and number something. Who else was their keynote win?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, right? Back-to-back weeks. Yet their strength of schedule was like 75th. And then the keynote wins for Ohio State were like Penn State and nobody. It's like Penn State and Rutgers were their 2 top wins, and their strength of schedule was somehow higher than Georgia's. I don't understand strength of schedule.
Is that strength of schedule at the start of the season?
No, it's active strength of schedule.
That's weird.
Okay.
I have no idea how those metrics are carried, but they make no sense to me.
Here's my pitch for it.
Come on.
So, also prefacing this by saying Georgia goes into Knoxville this weekend and just absolutely dominates. I mean, absolutely obliterates Tennessee. So that's 3 straight weeks where Georgia had really keynote wins against 3 ranked teams and was absolutely dominant in those games. So this is how the rankings would shake out if Georgia were to lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game in this scenario. You have winner of Ohio State and Michigan at number 1, Bama at number 2, Florida State at number 3, Georgia at number 4. Oregon beats Washington. They both have 1 loss. Texas loses the Big 12 championship game. So that means that you are deciding between Oregon or Georgia, both as 1-loss teams, Oregon being the conference champion, avenge their loss against Washington. But Georgia definitely had to go through a tougher stretch of games in the regular season. Their only loss would be to Alabama in the SEC championship game. We'll say it's a close one, lost by 3 points or something like that.
I think it still go with Oregon.
I think they would ultimately
the
go with
conference
Oregon, but I'm just saying there is an argument for
Yeah,
it,
no,
and there's a world where both of them could still get in.
It's way closer than we thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a really easy world where Oregon State just plays destroyer these next 2 weeks and beats Washington and Oregon, which they're capable of doing, completely eliminates the Pac-12 as a whole.
Is this why you said they could do the funniest thing ever?
That's what I'm saying, because
Yeah,
like
they
for
could.
as much as we talk about how the Pac-12's had a really up year and all this, how this is the year they're going to get someone back in the playoff, and how sad it is that they're dismantling after this. Oregon State could shoot this all down within 2 weeks, and we're all right back to up, same Pac-12.
Dude, if you're Oregon State, you got to take a dive. You got to.
I think
You
you
gotta
want
take a
to.
dive.
I think you want
Yeah.
to.
You need that 25 mil dispersed just like everybody else, man.
Oh, you're saying you
Take a dive. Like, you have to lose these football games.
Hey, DJ,
Yeah.
you're not playing today. I think that elbow's hurting a little bit, right? You said it was sore yesterday.
Could you pretend you're on Clemson, please?
Hey, DJ, Rhett Lashley's going to come back and call these games right quick. Wasn't that their OC
Yeah.
at Clemson? Yeah, Rhett Lashley's going to come out here and call some. Dial it up for you, baby.
Today's playbook, we borrowed it from Iowa. Good luck, buddy.
Brian
Let's
Ferentz
see what
is
we can
calling
do.
this
Yeah.
game,
Yeah, Brian Ferentz. We've rented him for the day. It only cost us $2,500.
That's great.
No,
You want a
it's good
Heisman
stuff.
update?
Yeah, I do want a Heisman update. Give it to me.
All right. First, I want you to guess who's leading the pack right now. Who's the odds-on favorite?
I saw it today.
Yeah, Jay will.
So
Is it Marvin Harrison?
No, he's pretty far down the
Then
list.
it's probably Bo Nix or Penix.
It's Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Bo
But how
Nix.
much? Plus 250?
Bo Nix is plus 110.
Oh, no. They think he's going to win it.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
that means they're expecting
That's-
him to go and just ball out these last.
You know
3
what?
weeks.
You know what that tells me? That tells me paying for billboards all over the freaking country are worth it.
He's having fun.
Yeah.
This might be the year, dude.
Yeah, dude. It only took 69 starts for man to figure out how to play college football.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Second,
Right on.
second is Jaden Daniels with plus 320. So I mean, it's a pretty substantial fall off on the odds. Third is Michael Penix. Fourth is Marvin Harrison at plus 475. Then those are your 4 top guys. Now, Michael Penix and Bo Nix play each other again.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those guys is going to follow the top 4, which means that the 4th or the 5th spot, Carson Beck at plus 4,000, is likely going to be a finalist.
4,000
Yeah.
plus 4 G's? That's not bad. I like the
Behind-
odds there. I
behind
like the
Carson-
juice.
Behind Carson Beck, guess who?
Brock Bowers.
No.
Who?
It's another quarterback.
Jalen Milroe.
Yep,
Yeah,
Jalen Murrow. So, I mean, they're kind of banking on whoever wins the SEC championship is going to be the finalist.
Yeah.
Because they know.
Now, you talking about a guy that doesn't have the stats at all to be there, Jalen Milrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
dude's thrown for like 2,400 yards this year, I think.
It was the same thing when J.J. McCarthy was in the conversation.
Yeah.
at the
That's
top.
garbage.
Behind-
Get that out of here.
Behind Jalen Milrow is Jordan Travis at plus 6,000, J.J. McCarthy plus 10,000, Blake Corum, Dylan Gabriel, Caleb Williams, Ollie Gordon, Drake May, Audric Estime,
There he is. I was wondering.
Kyle
I was like, where-
McCord. They're all long
I was like, where the heck is Allie Gordon?
Ollie.
Ollie Gordon, sorry.
I'd treat him as an ally, too. I wouldn't want no smoke. He big dude, man.
Yeah.
Like 6'1", 215. Do we have anything else, guys? I'm good to wrap it up if you're good to wrap it up. Unless you got something super pressing here.
Can I rip off?
Oh,
my
we've got
three
unless it doesn't
happen.
Oh, yeah. Come on. I want these.
I knew we were missing something.
Unless it doesn't happen, are bangers.
Miami puts an end to Louisville being a top 10
Well,
team.
I have
After this
one.
weekend, we're not going to have to discuss it any longer. All right, here's Louisville. Woo!
They're going to pull in Oklahoma.
Fake applause.
Win a squeaker and then get their
Look,
tits ripped.
I just
Tits ripped, huh?
That's what happened to Oklahoma. Oklahoma won a squeaker and they got their tits ripped.
How does one literally get their tits ripped?
I don't know. You can't run a marathon without putting a couple Band-Aids on your nipples first, though. Remember that.
All right. All right.
Okay. Second one I got. Another head coaching spot comes open after Saturday. Yeah, we got the gist of it, I think.
Yeah, you
Another head coaching spot comes open after Saturday, not named UCLA. I'm thinking it's going to be Baylor. They play TCU this weekend. I think if they lose to TCU, who hasn't been very good this year, they would be 3 wins in the last week of the regular season. I think that's formidable for them to then open up their head coaching search. And this last one.
Does what Dave Aranda and prior to the scandal, Mel Tucker, does what they have gone through kind of show teams that maybe the transfer portal isn't the way to build a team?
I mean, yeah.
Because they came in, had first year successes in their first 2 years, and then after that they flamed out completely.
I think the drastic overhauls are proven to not necessarily be the method. They're quick flash in the pan type success, but the way to do it is to do what I think Arizona has done, which is a combination of recruit high school football players that you can land while also going out and attacking some keynote transfers and getting those guys in. Guys that have played football at an extensive length as well. Which is, I believe, what Ole Miss has done. Ole Miss didn't necessarily go out and sign a bunch of former 5-stars that, either flamed out or just didn't succeed at their previous school like Dion did. Most of what Ole Miss did this past season was find guys that are in D2 or D1AA that have had tremendous careers, played a lot of football, was bring those guys in, and let's get those guys to transfer in, not necessarily, like I said, the retreads, if you will.
Yeah. All right, I got one. The Michigan Wolverines will barely beat the Maryland Terrapins on Saturday because they'll be overlooking for the game. Last year they played Illinois and won by 2 points on a late field goal. So it's not crazy to think that this will be kind of a sleeper game for them.
I think we're all just hoping for that.
I put my stock in Maryland early in the season to have a close one.
How'd that go for you?
It was horrible. I think they got dubbed up like 52-10.
Yeah, Dabers is about to get fired is what it sounds like. Or no, he's the coach at Syracuse. Who's the coach at Maryland?
I don't know.
Either way, sounds like he's on a relatively hot seat. I don't know why, but I guess they thought Toledo was a lot better and that he should be winning more football games. I thought going into the season that they might be the third best team in the East. I thought they might have had a chance to beat Penn State this year, honestly.
Well, I mean, I remember an era when Toledo was better than Tua.
Like he was worth quite a bit of money.
First 3 games.
Yeah, remember when he was on the Bama roster and he was kind of like, oh, just wait till he comes and starts after Tua leaves.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I do remember that.
Bama fans were doing that.
Oh yeah,
they didn't know that was a courtesy. I thought everybody knew that was a courtesy to Tua.
No, I mean he was getting some substantial hype. I remember.
You got any more?
No, I'm good.
Oh, my last one. Georgia State breaks some kind of offensive program record against LSU this weekend. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be
most points scored against a Power 5 opponent.
Something like that. A record is going to be broken in this football game for them.
Shouts out to the Thurs, man.
Shout out Sean Elliott.
Shout out Sean Elliott. He's probably going to hit somebody with his face in pregame.
Yeah, I love Sean Elliott.
I love Sean Elliott, too. If you're a coach that gets a heavy sweat in pregame, I like you. I like you a lot. You know who gets a heavy sweat pregame? Matt Rule. Matt Rule, big heavy sweat pregame guy.
That's because he's also spitting on himself.
Can't remember who the other coach was that I was going to mention here. Anyways, hey, it's been a great week of shows. We've picked up a bunch of new subscribers. If you're a new listener to today's show and you've made it this far, I've already earned your subscription, or at least you think I have, because you've watched us forever. You've watched us this long. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Like, subscribe, rate, review on your way out. I will see you bright and early Sunday here live on the channel. Love you. We'll see you.